Dad, here's your gift. If you win, remember half is mine. Kara tossed the lottery ticket across my table like a napkin, skidded over the runner and bumped the foot of my water glass. I caught it on reflex, smoothing the wrinkled paper with the same 2 fingers that taught her to tie her shoes on a December morning 3 decades ago. $2. 6 numbers. A cartoonish golden ball, printed in the center. Very thoughtful. Sweetheart, I said, setting the ticket by my plate. I kept my voice soft. It's what fathers do when the room is watching. Oh, but wait, Kara trilled, spinning the spotlight she always carries in her purse. I haven't given Eric his gift yet. She dipped behind her chair and lifted a long, lacquered box that looked like it had its own mortgage. The ribbon glowed under my cheap dining room light, the way expensive things have learned too. Eric straightened in his chair across from me perfectly. Pressed shirt, gold cufflinks, catching afternoon sun that had worked hard to get through my dirty window. Kara's father-in-law had the posture of a man who had never once in his life thought about the price of the light switch he was about to touch. These, she announced, opening the box and tilting it so the table could see, cost $13,000. Eric deserves the best for everything he's done for our family. Cruise tickets. 2. Silver foil embossing, a ship big enough to swallow a town. My hand moved on its own, the way hands do when they are practiced and tired. I took a sip of water I didn't want and watched Eric's manicured fingers trace expensive type. Now, this, he said, voice plummy with approval reserved for expensive things. This is a proper gift. His eyes found mine across the table. Your father taught you well, Kara. The phrase hung in the air like smoke from a cheap candle, the kind that says vanilla and means headache. My sister Margaret's fork paused halfway to her mouth. My nephew Tommy studied his hands like they were new. People looked at anything that wasn't Kara's mouth. Dad always said actions speak louder than words. Kara laughed, bright and sharp enough to scratch. She glanced at Eric, and some silent agreement passed between them. Some people show love through grand gestures. Others. She gestured vaguely at the lottery ticket near my plate. I held the paper steady, though. My hand wanted to shake in a way I hadn't let it in public since Barbara's funeral. I appreciate the thought. Kara, really. It's just a little joke, she said, waving dismissively. A movement that always meant more than it said. But seriously, if you hit the jackpot, I expect my cut. I paid for it, after all. Eric chuckled, low and satisfied. Next year, Stephen will surprise us all with something more substantial. He had the kind of laugh that belongs to limousines and invoices you don't see. Afternoon sunlight put borders on everyone's discomfort. I felt every line. We ate. It's a generous verb for what happened. Ham, scalloped potatoes, green beans. I'd spent too long snapping by hand because I still like a chore you can finish before a meal. People performed appreciation because the script said we should. Conversations skittered from whether to Tommy's summer job to the neighbor down the block, who had installed those lights that pretend to be party and are actually prison. Kara was radiant in the way people glow when they've decided a story will be told their way. She laughed often and loudly, looking to Eric for cues about timing. My son-in-law, Nate, her husband, stayed quiet. He had lunch shoulders, hunched forward from a desk that didn't love him back. His eyes met mine. Sometimes, as if to apologize for the room. Dad, Kara's voice again. We had reached the coffee I make, old school metal pot, too much grind. No filter on the store-bought cake I cut too thick on purpose. About your bank card? I looked up because everybody did. What about it? She flipped hair. People. Pay for nothing, she said breezily. Just making sure your Apple Wallet is working again. My heart ticked. Something old. Something I had given her. Something with numbers attached. It works, I said. Why? She smiled. 'Cause last week it didn't. Remember? She laughed like the line was a joke. Anyway, all good. I had not used Apple Wallet last week. The coffee tasted like metal. My eyes fell on the ticket by my plate. Powerball, Saturday draw. 6 numbers that didn't yet mean anything. I took a photo of the ticket on my phone without letting the lens catch my hands. For luck, I said. People laugh when old men say superstition out loud. They think it's cute. Sometimes it's camouflage. They left at 5. Margaret stayed to help with dishes even though she knows I tell her not to because I need the ritual. Tommy carried a bag of leftovers and took the garbage out like he meant it. Eric's hug was air. Kara's was perfume. Love you, Dad. She sang into my shoulder. Remember our deal? When the door closed, the house exhaled in that way. Old houses duotable, put upon, alive. I stood at the sink and washed plates until the water ran cold. Margaret dried and put things where I always put them. She didn't talk until the last plate leaned against the cabinet wall. She used your card, she said simply. How would you know that? Because I was here when you set it up for her last Christmas, she said. And because I know that voice she uses when she thinks she got away with something. She's my goddaughter. She's your daughter. She's also 32 and likes the feeling of someone else's wallet in her hand. I sighed. The ticket sat on the counter by the sugar tin. It looked ridiculous there. It looked at home. The cruise, Margaret asked. The cruise, I said. For Eric, I kept my voice level. He has a boat. Margaret snorted. He has a boat, she repeated. Then softer. You don't have to let this go. I know, I said. But I am going to let this simmer. After she left, I sat in my recliner and called my bank. A polite man with an American name and an accent, the Southeastern United States has an earned asked me to verify recent charges. Voyage line cruises, $13,082.47, he said. Friday. I didn't authorize that, I said. It was made through an Apple Pay token, he replied. Ending in 12. Do you share your wallet? I did once, I said, with my daughter. For groceries. The laugh that came out of my mouth didn't like my throat. She bought caviar for a dinner party last June. She called it eggs. We can dispute and cancel, he said. New cards in 3 to 5 business days.
Ow.
No, I said, surprising both of us. Leave it. Flag the card. Do not cancel yet. Please put an alert on any charges over 100. Sir, I need to see what story she's telling, I said. And to whom? He made a note. I thanked him for his script. We hung up. I took the ticket off the counter and stuck it under a round magnet on the side of the fridge. The magnet, said world's okayest grandpa. Tommy gave it to me 2 years ago because he likes to pretend he's mean, and I like to pretend I'm not proud. I slept worse than I deserved and woke up early because that's what old men do when their head and heart want to arm-wrestle. Monday was quiet in the way days are when they decide to mind their business. I puttered. I reseated the towel holder in the half bath that had been loose since Obama's second year. I replaced the batteries in the smoke alarms because smoke doesn't care how you feel about your daughter. I vacuumed because vacuuming gives a man a good sound when he wants it. At 11:12 a.m., my phone dinged. Apple Pay. $41.37, Bean and Barrel Cafe. Kara's favorite coffee place. She once told me their beans were ethically sourced. I once told her water was also ethically sourced. At 4:07 p.m., another ding. Apple Pay. $298.42. Harbor and Hearth. That would be the kitchen store where she buys knives designed by people with tattoos. I let it tick. Tuesday, I went to the DMV to renew my license because my birthday had been the week before, and I like a plastic that agrees. On the way back, I stopped at the gas station where the man with the hat always gives me 50 cents off because he's from a country where old men get a chair. There was a Powerball sign by the register. It didn't know anything about my fridge. Neither did the guy with the hat. You want another?
Yes.
Already got my luck, I said. Wednesday, the loan company called. They wanted to know if I would confirm my address for a statement. I asked what statement. The woman said, I'm sorry, sir, 3 times after she realized I had no idea there had been an hour in our kitchen remodel. I wrote dates and names on a notepad I've been using since 2004. I wrote in ballpoint, hard enough to leave grooves on the page below. I called the number 4 lottery claims that night after dinner, stared at it, and hung up before it rang. I took the ticket down and moved it to the top of the fridge where I wouldn't see it every time I wanted water. Thursday afternoon, I mowed. Mrs. Lynn's yard because she's 81 and her grandson promised to do it but had a finals week that was eating him. She gave me 2 peaches and 3 opinions. None of them were wrong. Friday, Kara texted me a photo from the deck of Eric's boat. Her feet were in the frame because she likes to make sure expensive shows up the way the internet favors. And wait for the big one, she wrote. Voyage line is going to be insane. Eric says they have a tasting menu designed by a Michelin chef. XOXO. Put my phone face down on the counter next to the okayest grandpa magnet and the stack of paper plates I keep because sometimes I don't want the dishes. Saturday, I did not turn on the TV for the numbers. I read a paperback with a detective who lived alone and had a cat that hated him. I ate spaghetti with too much garlic. I spit seeds from one of Mrs. Lynn's peaches into the sink and watched them spin. At 11:07 p.m., I took the ticket off the fridge and flattened it on the table. I pulled the numbers up on my phone and held my breath in what I assume was the same pattern people use when they do. CPR. First number, mine. Second, mine. Third, fourth, fifth. Mine, the Powerball, mine. Sat back so fast the chair complained. I held the ticket in both hands like it was a firefly and not paper. I read the numbers again because sometimes eyes lie. They didn't $120 million. The detective in my paperback would have poured whiskey at this point. I don't drink anymore. Poured orange juice into a coffee mug because I'm not good at celebrations. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I didn't take a picture. I looked at the magnet that said, okayest. I laughed, finally, and it surprised me enough I had to sit differently. I called a number my sister had given me 2 years ago, when our friend Mark hit 5 numbers and learned this country doesn't love winners unless they're on TV. Lottery lawyer. Margaret had written on a yellow sticky, "Call if you ever love your privacy more than your pride." Doyle, Brady, and Sloan. A woman answered on the second ring. Her voice sounded like good stationery. "My name is Stephen Pike," I said. "Need to speak with someone about a claim. I would prefer to remain anonymous." "Of course, Mr. Pike," she said. "We do this all the time. Don't sign anything. Don't tell anyone. Can you come in Monday morning?" "I can come tomorrow," I said. She paused, then said, "We'll make it work. 9 a.m., don't drive yourself. Bring the ticket. We'll start your trust." "My trust," I said, trying the word on. "Your trust," she said. "And a plan." I hung up and put the ticket in an envelope. I wrote my name on the front. I put that envelope in another envelope and wrote a different name, the Ashland Trust, because that's the street I grew up on. And my first miracles had happened in houses with peeling paint. I put the double-wrapped paper under a book by the bed, because thieves love drawers and forget novels. Then I sat at the table and wrote 3 words on a notepad I wasn't going to throw away. House, money, boundaries, under house. I wrote, change the locks, call a locksmith, get a safe deposit box. Under money. Hire the lawyer, hire a CPA, take the lump sum, build a list. Under boundaries. Ask Kara to meet, show receipts. Stop letting family be a word that makes me ignore theft. I glanced at my phone. A text from Kara. Love you. Dad, reminder, our deal is final, right? Half my lucky ticket if it hits. I put the phone face down and circled the word boundaries. Then I wrote a 4th word under the 3 dot, dignity, Doyle. Brady and Sloane's conference room smelled like paper that mattered and coffee no one drank fast. The partner Angela Doyle had the kind of presence that makes men with money stop trying to be tall. Congratulations, she said. Not performing it. We'll do this quietly. We'll do it right. Paralegal set a reed rope on the table. First decisions, Angela said, sliding a single page across. Cash or annuity. Privacy options in our state. Claim entity. Advisors. Cash. I said, I'm 70. I want a plan, not a calendar. Good, she said. The cash option will be substantially less than the advertised jackpot. Then taxes, federal withholding at claim, state depending on residence. You'll net, she did the kind of mental math that made me trust her. Enough that the difference between a lot and a lot won't change your groceries? I laughed despite myself. Fair. Privacy, she went on. This. State allows a claim through a trust. There will be a public record of Ashland Trust, and our firm is contact. Your name stays off the marquee. We coach you on what not to say. We run interference, and we build structures that keep friends, family. And the enthusiastic from turning your phone into a job you didn't apply for? She wrote Ashland Trust on a yellow pad in big block letters. Then drew 3 boxes beneath it. CPA Fiduciary Investment Security. Process CPA first, she said. Someone who doesn't sell you investments, just math. Investment advisor second phonely, fiduciary, boring as taxes. Security third, not guards, she added, seeing my face. Process. New phone numbers, mailing address, safe deposit. 1 email that forwards to 3 folders, and a human who isn't you. They took the ticket like a bomb squad takes a package. Gently, professionally, never without paper. A second partner and a paralegal counted, photographed, filled out the claim form. Printed me 10 copies I didn't ask for and suddenly loved. They handed me a prepaid phone with 2 numbers preloaded, Angela's and my CPA 2B. Do not post. Do not boast. Do not buy, Angela said, tapping each word. Not yet. We'll sit with the money 2 weeks before you deploy $1. Boredom is your friend. At the lottery office Monday morning, I watched from a side chair while Angela did the talking. Ashland Trust, cash option, direct deposit. A smiling photo was offered. He smiled back with signatures. A claims officer slid the check into an envelope like it was something anyone might do on a Monday. Timeline, Angela said back at the firm. Funds within a week. In the meantime, boxes, they rotated through me like a triage. C. Po Ariana. Gomez glasses, deadpan humor, the kind of hands that tap a calculator the way pianists test a new instrument. Don't chase returns, she said. Own boring. Treasury ladders, broad index funds, CDs for earmarks. Taxes are a feature, not a bug. Put philanthropy in writing so your checkbook doesn't become your policy. Investment Marcus Leaf only. Calm, your money should let you sleep, he said. If it makes you check your phone at 3 a.m., we're doing it wrong. Security process Kendra. Show former operations at a bank that taught her how to break her own systems. We're not hiring muscle, she said. We're making it so the wrong people can't get on your calendar. New P.O. box, new email. Freeze your credit temporarily. 1 card with alerts. It's a factor on everything. No Apple Pay shared. Ever. No. Apple Pay shared, I repeated, tasting the words. Which is how we got to Kara. Tuesday afternoon, I texted her. Dinner, my house, just us. Thursday at 6, she replied with a heart emoji, and a minute later, a second text. Eric invited us to a preview of the cruise menu next week. Don't be jealous. Zaxo. I called my bank, and with Ariana's voice in my ear, set the last of the alerts. I'm ready to dispute, I told the account rep. Not yet. Thursday, Kara breezed in with a lipstick that made apologies seem optional. She kissed my cheek. You look good, she said, taking in the kitchen like a critic. New towel? New towel, I said. Sit. I had made meatloaf because meatloaf is for conversations you don't want to overcomplicate. I poured her water. I kept my voice gentle. The house had a way of helping if I asked it out loud. You used my Apple Wallet to buy a cruise for Eric, I said. No preamble, no runway, just the thing. She didn't flinch. Dad, she laughed, performative. It's all family money. We'll pay you back. Eric already has comped excursions lined up. You should thank me, your card points went through the roof. Not family money, I said. My money. And points aren't currency. Kay, she said. Palms up. I'll Venmo you for half tomorrow. Happy? No, I said. You'll call Voyage Line now, cancel, and refund the charge to my card. Then we will remove your access to my wallet. Then you will tell me what other charges you've made with my phone in the last 6 months? She blinked. Dad? No, I said again quietly. This isn't a negotiation. Something hard flashed across her face, and, for a second, I saw the girl who used to steal cookies and call it borrowing. Then the mask slid back into place. Fine, she said, standing. You know they'll charge a cancellation fee. You're being petty. I'm being clear, I said. She called at my counter with my phone under my roof. Of course, the comped excursions weren't comped. Of course, there was a cancellation policy. Of course, she had to be escalated twice. Of course, Eric texted. 3 times while she was on hold? What's the holdup? Tell him to relax, I'll fix it later. By the end of the hour, the charge was reversed, less a 10% fee. I told her we'd discuss the fee later. She dumped my phone on the counter and crossed her arms. This is ridiculous, she said. I'm your daughter. I take care of you. Take care of my wallet, I said. You don't take care of me. Silence. The kind that fits a room and asks it a question. What are you going to do? Cut me off? She said, chin lifting. Rewrite your will? Make me earn my inheritance like Eric makes his staff dance for bonuses? I'm going to set boundaries, I said, and a plan. For you, for me, for the money I may or may not ever have. My mouth smiled before I could stop it. She didn't notice. You don't have to agree. You do have to respect my house. She pushed her chair back and stood. Text me when you're done being dramatic, she said, albeit Eric's. We're tasting foie gras. After she left, I opened the Ashland trust binder Angela had given me and the lined pad I keep by the phone. I wrote the skeleton of the lesson with Ariana's don't chase and Kendra's process, not paranoia in my ear. Build Ashland Foundation with a mission I can say out loud without apologizing. Dignity in basics. HVAC grants, food, legal services, kids with bus passes and exam fees. Nothing that looks like a gala. Create a family trust that keeps dignity in the family, too. Discretionary, boring, hard to abuse. Successor trustee not related to Eric. No distributions to spouses or in-laws. HIMS, standard health, education, maintenance, support if and only if Kara meets the non-financial rules. Non-financial rules for Kara, counsel with a debt advisor paid directly. Blocks on access to my accounts. Repay any unauthorized charges. To me or the trust, we set a schedule. No new gifts to Eric's household for 2 years. Work with a budget counselor monthly for 12 months. 1 weekend a quarter volunteering for something with no cameras. Match. Principal, I will match her verified repayments and volunteer hours with equal grants to the foundation in her name, not a gala. She gets to see the good her choices. Make family policy. Any spouse's parent, Eric receives nothing from me. If they ask, it reduces Kara's next quarter's distribution to 0. Father's Day redo, dinner next month. Envelopes on plates. Inside. 1 for Margaret. A modest check and a letter about peaches and opinions. 2 for Tommy. A plain blue internship stipend and a scholarship application. 3 for Nate. An offer to fund a certificate he's been afraid to ask for. For Eric, an invoice for the cancellation fee and a letter, do not bill me again. 5 for Kara, a letter, a schedule, and a trust summary. No numbers. Conditions. A choice. I sent the outline to Angela. She called within an hour. Thoughtful. She said, measured. 1 caution. This lesson can't be performative. No public shaming. Document, file, and let the paper carry the weight. No speeches, I said. No speeches, she agreed. Also philanthropy first. If you tell her about the foundation before the trust, she'll hear the mission. If you lead with her boundaries, she'll hear punishment. I understand. I said, we set the wheels. Kendra got me a new number. Only 6 people got it: Tangela, Ariana, Marcus, Kendra, Margaret, and the foundation's lawyer, Jonah. She pulled my Apple Pay access from every device I didn't hold and closed the thread. With, you do not owe anyone an explanation for protecting yourself. Ariana opened a donor-advised fund as the seed of Ashland Foundation. We'll convert to a 501c3 when you're ready, she said. For now, keep it nimble. Small grants, fast checks. Mo galas. Marcus built a first draft allocation. Safe, boring, a little ladder of treasuries, a broad index fund. If you forget your password, it files a missing person report. He joked on a liquidity bucket for year 1, so I can learn how not to spend. Angela drafted the family trust with clean clauses, discretionary distributions for Kara under HEMS standard. Subject to annual review. strict prohibition. On distributions to spouses or their parents. Misuse clause. Any attempt to access Stephen's accounts or use of Stephen's funds without consent. Suspends distributions for up to 12 months. Positive clause. For each quarter, Kara meets counseling and volunteer commitments and stays within a budget. The trustee may make a matching grant to Ashland. Foundation in her name. Successor trustee, Ariana and Angela, as co-trustees if I become incapacitated or gone. Lane, my sister, as tiebreaker. Not Eric. Not anyone who answers to Eric. We left. Numbers out of Kara's letter. Not her business yet. Not the point. A week later, called Margaret and asked her to make Father's Day nachos, the way only she can reel cheese, Galapagos, enough for a prison yard. I invited everyone, family. Dinner, I said. My house. Dress code. Elastic waist. Elastic waist? She laughed. This must be serious. Dignity is serious, I said. The envelopes were plain. No satin, no wax seals. No names on the outside. Just a lemon stamp at the corner I found at a stationery store because every kitchen should have a lemon in it. I set them at each plate and breathed on purpose. They arrived all at once, as if they had timed it. Kara's dress was a color Pinterest invented for weddings. Eric wore a shirt that had never met a wrinkle. Nate hovered behind Kara like a man at a crosswalk waiting for the white hand. Sit, I said. Eat first. We ate. People moaned at the right bites. Food is a kind of civility no one gives enough credit. Before dessert, I said, standing. Because my chair complained and also because some words want spine, I have letters. Kara smirked automatically. Ow. A will reading, she said. No, I said. A plan. I handed Margaret her envelope first. Inside, a note thank you for the peaches and the opinions and a check that made her say quit it out loud. I'll spend it on something stupid and send you a picture, she said, wiping at her eye with a paper towel that stuck to her face. Tommy got an envelope. Inside, an offer in turn with the foundation for a month will get there, and $1,000. Toward a community college semester if he applies. He whooped before he realized he wasn't supposed to. Sorry, he said, and didn't mean it. Nate's envelope held the line he'd been too tired to ask for, a voucher to cover a project management certificate, tuition direct to the school. Scheduled for evenings, no debt, he said. Then looked at Kara and didn't finish the sentence. Eric took his envelope like a man takes a menu. He opened it. Inside, a letter with a single sentence, please do not charge. My account's again an invoice for the 10% cruise cancellation. Fee, payable to Ashland Trust. He flushed, shrugged, and smiled too big. Cute, he said. Did your lawyer write that? She did, I said. Gosh, she enjoys her work. Kara left hers for last, either out of flair or fear. I couldn't tell. She slid a nail under the flap and pulled out 2 pages, she read. Her mouth did 3 different things in 10 seconds open. Laugh, press thin. What is this? She said finally. A trust summary, I said. And a plan for you? It's not a punishment. It's a chance for money to be clean, she skimmed. Debt counselor, budget, volunteering. No gifts to Eric, Dad, or anyone's parents. I said, Eric is included because he's a parent, that's all. This foundation thing, she said, dignity grants. You want me to volunteer like a candy striper to earn my inheritance? I want you to stop confusing. My bank account with love, I said. And yes, I want you to sit with people who need air that works and bus passes that get them to work and see what money does when it shuts up. She looked around the table for allies. Eric spread his hands in a way that means I don't get involved in family matters and somehow always does. Nate looked at his envelope like it might turn into a real working night class if he stared enough. What if I say no? Kara said finally. Chin up. Voice loud enough to make apples uneasy. Then the trust doesn't distribute to you, I said. And if you take money without asking, it stops for a year. If you meet the plan, we match your efforts with grants in your name. not a gala. A gratitude letter from someone whose air is better because you kept a calendar. You made all this over a dumb joke, she snapped, tears threatening because that's where frustration goes when it wants a way out. I made this because you used my money like you couldn't tell the difference between a cruise and groceries, I said. This is how we start telling the truth. She stood, then sat, then stood again. I can't believe you, she said, which is a sentence children practice on mirrors. Believe me, I said. Or don't. The rules don't get tired. The kind in which love sits down because it's already had a long day. Eric reached for his water, like it had won him something. Nate cleared his throat like he'd like to be 30 and honest for 5 minutes in a row. I'm in, he said, eyes on his envelope, voice steady. Night classes. I'll do the foundation Saturdays. He looked at Kara like a man does. When he's tired of being quiet, come with me or don't, but don't let your father do this alone. She looked at him, at me, at the lemon stamp, at the envelope, back at me. Something moved under her face, not a mask. A muscle learning. It had a job. Fine, she said. I'll do it, but I'm not happy. Not selling you happy, I said. I'm offering you dignity. She laughed once, small. Sound like a brochure, she said, which is how some people say you sound like a father. Dessert. With store-bought cake again because no one bakes wisdom into sugar. People ate. People shifted. People left. After the last taillights disappeared, Margaret hugged me like she had expected worse. You going to tell them? She asked. About the ticket? Yes, I said. After the foundation makes its first 3 grants, after Nate registers, after Kara goes to her first counseling session, after the plan has a chance to be a plan and not a press release. And Eric? She asked. He learned how to read, I hope, I said. Invoices are literature if you try. Eh? Made coffee at 9 because sleep would be earned if it came. I sat at the table with the pad and the yellow boxes and the lemon stamp and wrote an addendum to my plan. Don't teach with spectacle, do teach with paper. Let the money be the quiet part then. I slid my phone out of my pocket and sent Ariana one line. When funds hit, let's move $1 million to the foundation. HVAC, food, legal aid, exam fees. Fast grants. Quiet. She responded with a paperclip emoji, which is what good people send when they see a plan that wants a staple. I slept, not because I had one numbers, because I had a list and a lemon magnet and a lawyer who liked punctuation. Asterisk, the first 3 dignity grants went out the door before anyone in my family knew the Ashland Foundation existed. Ariana had warned me, move small, move fast, document like a church. We did. 3 checks. 3 letters. No gala. HVAC dignity. $7,800 to Tri-County Mechanical to replace a failing condenser for a senior duplex during a heat wave. We earmarked the install for Ms. Delaney and Mr. Ortiz neighbors, who had been sharing a single window unit like a campfire. Mason sent me a photo of a manifold hooked up and a grin he tried to hide. The letter to each tenant said, this came from a neighbor who remembers July. No publicity, just air. Food dignity. $5,000 to Northside Pantry to convert grocery lines into a dignified market shelves. Choices, simple point cards, the director Val, sent back a receipt and a sentence I slept on. People lingered and talked. Beans taste different when you pick them. Legal dignity. $3,500 to the county legal aid clinic for an elder fraud Saturday. 3 attorneys. A notary and a copier that didn't jam. They called it paper and peace. They saw 23 clients, a paralegal named Lena Tucked. A thank you in our file. We closed a predatory installment loan for a man who thought his TV cost him his life. It didn't. I let those happen before I said anything to anyone with my last name. Then came Kara's first volunteer Saturday. She showed up too. Northside in a white sweater that had never met a pantry and a phone that had never been asked to. Sit still. Val smiled kindly and pointed to a cubby. Phones stay here, she said. Clients first. But Kara began, then stopped when she saw everyone else's phone steens. A retiree, a man with forearms like he carried. Sheetrock for a living, all sliding into slots like grown-ups. We put her at intake. Names, dietary needs, number in household, Val said. If they cry, hand them the tissues. If they don't cry, don't make them. If they ask for peaches and we don't have them, offer pears and don't make a speech. An hour in A. Woman our age, Denise, hair in a neat knot, hands that belonged to a cashier sat and wouldn't meet Kara's eyes. 2, she said, when asked how many in the household. Me and my kid. Nut allergy. No peanuts. No cash till Friday. Kara wrote, lips pressed. She slid a market card across and leaned in without theater. Pears are good this week.
Denise.
Nodded and stood. Her phone buzzed. She glanced down. Kara's cruise deck photoed those toes. That gloss of sunlight flashed on Denise's feed. Shared and reshared into rooms that know what saltwater costs. Denise's mouth twitched. She pocketed the phone and said, thanks anyway. At lunch, Val handed everyone ham sandwiches and one rule. Tell me one thing you learned, Kara said. Phones are loud. Yep, Val said. So is hunger. See you next Saturday. Kara swallowed. She nodded. Yeah, next Saturday. While Kara was learning quiet, Eric learned about refunds. Voyage Line hit his Amex for the cancellation fee per policy. He texted me a screenshot with a shrug emoji and, your temper cost me $1,308 fix. I forwarded the text to Angela. Responded with one sentence I printed and taped inside my cabinet door for days when verbs need help. We do not subsidize your choices. I replied to Eric with a PDF, please remit to Ashland Trust. He read it and, for the first time since I'd known him, did not reply. Silence is a sentence. 2. Nate's class started on a Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. in a room at the community college that smelled like markers and possibility. He sent me a photo of a whiteboard filled with arrows and the words critical path. Under it, his notebook neat underscored a date at the top. He'd written one line in the margin and circled it. Communicate constraints before they become excuses. He came by my house the next night with a tired face that had earned. Homework, he said sheepishly, holding up a Gantt chart like it was a map for a place he might want to live. Coffee, I said. We sat at the island with graph paper and too many pencils, and I watched a man stop being a ghost in the corner of a room. He pays rent in. I set the family meeting for the following Sunday. I told no one what for. I made meatloaf again and mashed potatoes that could break up a church argument. People came because they always do when free food and old habits call. I talked about the foundation first. 3 grants so far, said, sliding photos across the table. Faces, just receipts, and condenser units, and a snapshot of a pantry shelf now labeled with choices instead of rules. Air, food, paper. We'll do more. Small and fast. No speeches. If you want in, it's on Saturdays. Tommy looked up from his phone. I can stock shelves, he said. Good, I said. Bring a friend. Then I told them about the lottery. I didn't say the number. I said the words Angela underlined on a pad the day I met her. We're doing this quietly and right. I told them a trust had claimed. I told them the house would stay my house. I told them I made a foundation because money that doesn't know how to be quiet makes men loud and stupid. I told them I did not owe anyone anything except love and limits. Kara stared at me. The way people stare at fires, horrified and attracted. Half, she said, steady. I said half. It was my ticket. I paid for it. Angela had coached me. You gave me a gift, I said. Legally, Ariana has the case notes. Once a lottery ticket is given as a gift and accepted, the proceeds belong to the recipient. Your half text isn't a contract. It's a joke that didn't age well. She flushed. So I get nothing? You get what's in your letter? I said, dignity, the chance to be trusted with decisions that don't involve my wallet. If you meet the plan, the trust can help you classes, counseling, match on repayments, guardrails. She pressed tears under her eyes with a ring that cost what rent used to. You're punishing me. I'm parenting you, I said, because honesty can be an act of love too, and I'm protecting me. I've been quiet too long to stay that way. You win the lottery and turn into a bureaucrat, he scoffed. No wonder Kara tried to bring some joy into your life. Ships are fun. Paper isn't. Joy doesn't require my card, I said. And paper is how adults keep promises. When the room gets noisy, I let that hang. Then put down the twist in the middle of the table like a tool that looks scarier than it is. The family trust has a clause, I said. If you meet your plan for 2 years 12 counseling, sessions attended, budget followed, no unauthorized charges. Volunteer hours done, then you don't inherit a pile of cash. I looked at Kara. You get something better? Seat. On the foundation's small grants committee. With a $250,000 annual giving budget to deploy food, air, paper for people you meet in rooms without cameras. You'll decide. You'll see. Letters. You'll carry keys that open other people's doors, not mine. She blinked. I get money I can't spend. You get money you can spend on purpose, I said, and you'll have a trustee who says no when you're tired and yes when you've done the work. Nate put a hand on her wrist. That's incredible, he said. He turned to me. Thank you. Eric laughed hard enough to make the table flinch. So your daughter gets a volunteer job and a pat on the head and you sit on a pile of cash like a dragon. I slid an envelope across the table to him. This is the only thing with your name on it, I said. He opened it. Inside, a receipt voyage line refund processed. Cancellation fee charged to payer of record and a lawyer's letter. 1 line. You are not and will never be a beneficiary of any trust administered by Mr. Pike. He grinned too widely. You think this scares me? I'll make my own money. Good, I said. Do. I handed Margaret her envelope again for her. The nachos she brought and the peaches and the opinions that deserved direct deposits. She grinned and tucked it in her bag without peeking. Tommy's envelope had a bus pass and a tool voucher because he'd decided shelves mattered. Nate's had proof of tuition paid for the next module of his certificate. He looked like a person who'd gotten air after forgetting he had lungs. Kara turned her letter over. She turned it again. She ran a nail under the lemon stamp as if a genie might climb out. There's one more thing, I said, and Angela's voice in my head reminded me to say it without sugar. The trust has a misbehavior clause. Any attempt, direct or through, someone else to access my accounts or use my funds without consent, suspends your distributions for up to a year. If you meet your plan, it restarts. If you don't, the money you would have gotten goes to the foundation in your name anyway. You'd give away my money to make a point? She said, almost laughing. I'd keep my promise, I said. To dignity. Yours, mine, theirs. Now. There was a long silence built from words that had the decency to wait their turn. Then Kara did something I did not expect. She handed the letter to Nate and said, "Read it with me." He did, finger following line by line, like a man who knows where contracts hide the teeth. Okay, she said finally, sliding it back into the envelope. I'll do it. Not because I like it, because the thought of having to tell someone they don't get an HVAC unit because I didn't show up on a Saturday makes me nauseous. Good nausea, Margaret said, not looking up from her plate. And Dad? Kara added, eyes sharp even through the mess. I'll repay the cruise fee. In thirds, direct to your foundation. Direct to Ashland Trust, I said. Note it in your file. She rolled her eyes and then couldn't stop the small smile that wanted out. Come on, she told Nate, standing. I have to be at the pantry at 8. I need sleep. Eric stood too. I'm going, he announced, smug. Someone has to make sure the photos look good. No, Kara said, surprising Olive. Us and herself. Phones in the cubby. Clients first. I could mow my dad's lawn. He scoffed. He left. The front door didn't slam. Growth is a verb measured in hinges sometimes. After they were gone, and the house resumed the noises it knows its maker, pipe somewhere complaining about being old. The porch remembering footsteps, I sat with Margaret and the lemon stamp in the pad. Was that the lesson? She asked. It's the first draft, I said. The money doesn't get to be the teacher. Paper does. Rooms do. Saturdays do. She raised an eyebrow. You didn't tell them the number? I don't owe anyone a headline, I said. I owe them supper and envelopes, and a chance to be trustworthy. She clinked her water against my coffee. Too boring, she said. To dignity, I said. We made coffee at 9 again. I wrote one more line on the pad, under dignity. Don't confuse shock with change. Keep the plan boring. Then I checked the foundation inbox. 3 new letters. From Ms. Delaney's grandson, who wrote exactly what anyone would write when their grandmother can sleep through a heat wave in July. We didn't know who to thank. So, thank you. Year 1 didn't make a sound. It made a calendar. Kara showed up the first 4 Saturdays at Northside, phones in the cubby, clients first. She learned the difference between saying pairs are good this week and we only have pairs, and why the first one leaves dignity on the table. Counseling on Thursdays at 4. She didn't like the chair the first week. Dr. Bryant told her that was fine. Chairs don't care if you like them. The check went from the trust directly to the office. Attendance came to us like a report card without grades present. Present, budget with a Morris on the second Tuesday, screenshots of subscriptions canceled. 1 repayment plan negotiated, to polite nose to showers with registries that thought weddings were Kickstarter campaigns. She missed 1 counseling session in October, texted me. I froze in the parking lot. I wrote back, paper first, reschedule. She sent a photo of her appointment card and the paperclip emoji she'd learned to use instead of pride. She called Voyage Line herself and repaid the cancellation fee in thirds. Direct to the Ashland Trust. I filed the receipts without writing. I told you so in the memo line. She backslid once. February Apple. Pay ping. $412.19. Sales and satin. Not groceries, not rent, not necessary. A group gift for a Galantina's dinner at a rooftop bar that understood inflation as a lifestyle. Kendra texted me before the ding finished dinging. Unauthorized? Misuse clause? Called Kara. No preamble. Pause, I said. She didn't argue. She did cry. Dad, it was dumb. I wrote rules for dumb, I said. 90 days. Distributions paused. You keep counseling in Saturdays. We'll restart if you do. She did. In April, there was a letter from a pantry client in the foundation inbox, addressed to whoever put canned tomatoes where people could reach them. Kara pinned it to her fridge. The trust restarted May 1st. The foundation built muscle. It kept the grants boring and fast air, food, paper. By winter, Jonah had filed our 501c3. Our little donor-advised fund sprouted. A board and the mission statement read like a grocery list on purpose. Dignity and basics. No galas. We picked our first community seat. Not a donor, I told Angela. Not someone who likes microphones. Someone who shows up before his shift and after, we asked Mason. He wore his one good shirt. He stood in my kitchen under the lemon magnet and read the board materials as if they were wiring diagrams, and the light wouldn't work if he missed something. Why me? He asked finally. Because you sweat, honestly, I said. And because you know what a condenser sounds. Like when it's dying. Boards need ears. He said yes. He brought donuts to the first meeting and made a motion to reimburse the pantry for shelving brackets. No one had thought to budget because the old brackets had decided to be art. The motion passed. The shelves stopped wobbling. Eric tried one. Last angle? A letter from a law firm with a name that thought vertical lines and a logo made you richer showed up by certified mail. Demand for accounting and constructive trust. They claimed co-ownership of lottery proceeds due to consideration the $2 investment, family reliance. They cited a case from a state that wasn't ours and misquoted it anyway. Angela replied in 6 pages of calm. I wish I could tattoo. Gift law once given and accepted. It belongs to the recipient. State statute anonymous claims through a trust. And the part of contract law that isn't a vibe. On page 4, in a paragraph that looked boring and sounded like a gavel, she included a line I read twice because it made my blood settle. Your client's demand is frivolous. Any further attempts to harass Mr. Pike or interfere with his estate planning will be met with a motion for sanctions. She sent a copy to Eric. She CC'd Kendra. Dated My process flow. Block plus archive. No fire. Eric texted Kara screenshots anyway. Look what I do for you, he wrote. She didn't respond. Saturday at the pantry, she handed Val her phone before Val had to ask. Nate finished his certificate. The class loved him because he showed up early and asked decent questions. His boss didn't love him until he used a Gantt chart to show that. Firing to temps would cost them 3 months in rework. They didn't fire the temps. They gave Nate 2 projects and a raise small enough to be honest. Year 2 didn't make noise either. It did repetition. It's counseling, budget meetings, Saturdays, fewer rooftop dinners, more pasta at home with the sauce she accidentally learned. To make, she started to look at money like air. When it works, you don't talk about it. When it doesn't, you'll fix it before the heat wave learns your name. She slipped once in summer, missed 2 Saturdays in a row. Texts that read hangover and then sorry. Val counted the no-shows like the perfect friend she is without. Sarcasm, with a pen. The trust paused for a quarter per the rules. The foundation made a grant in Kara's name anyway to a legal clinic on that paper and peace day. We mailed Kara a copy of the thank you letter. She came back the next. Saturday in jeans instead of white. She stalked pairs and didn't make speeches. On a Wednesday in September of year 2, Ms. Delaney's grandson stopped by the foundation office with a laminated photo of her and Mr. Ortiz, sitting in 2 chairs in front of 2 vents that were not blowing hot air in July, and a note. We saved $35 last month on power. We don't know what to do with it. Maybe peaches. I put the photo in the safe next to Barbara's letter because that's what safes are for. Paper that reminds you how to be a neighbor. On the last board meeting before winter, Mason moved another small motion. Ashlyn should buy bus passes. In bulk, not glamorous. Very useful. Passed. He got a punch card for donuts. Eric's last attempt was predictable enough to feel like a rerun. He sent a proposal to the foundation. $50,000 for a dignity cruise for caregivers and their families. He attached a deck with stock photos, a quote from a study about restorative leisure, and a budget that paid program design fees to a company registered to his friend, Ray. Jonah drafted a letter with the politest possible no. Our mission is basics. Cruises are not basics. We wish you well. We see C.D. Angela. We opened a grant to the respite care fund at the clinic where Nate worked instead. On a Tuesday in May, the 2nd anniversary of the Lemon Magnet, Angela sent me a memo. Kara has met 2 years of plan. Counseling complete, budget adhered, volunteer hours logged 78. Unauthorized charges, 1 paused and remedied. Per trust, eligible for committee seat. We set the final Father's Day on a date none of us needed reminding for, and told the kitchen to make too much of everything again. Meatloaf, potatoes, green beans, nachos, because Margaret doesn't show up without them now. Ms. Lynn sent peaches. The house made its usual noises. The 4th stair whispered like habit. People came. Tommy taller. Nate with a different jawline because work had started respecting him out loud. Kara in jeans and a clean shirt, phone already halfway to the cubby because it knows where it belongs now. Before cake, I said, standing, spine doing its job. 2 things. I put an envelope in front of Nate. Inside, project budget transfer authorized. A check to cover night tuition for the next certificate he'd pretended to not want because he'd already asked for enough. He didn't preen. He nodded. Kara squeezed his hand. I put an envelope in front of Margaret. Inside, a check less than she deserved, more than she'd take without calling me names. For the peaches, I said. And for telling me to call the lottery lawyer. Quit it, she said, tears anyway. I put an envelope in front of Tommy. Inside, plain blue summer, $2,000 stipend. He whooped, then apologized, then didn't. I put an envelope in front of Eric. Inside, a letter, we wish you well. Do not invoice me again. He smiled too hard, said nothing, left his envelope next to his plate and the nachos he didn't finish. That is also a sentence. I put an envelope in front of Kara. She looked at it like a person looking at a dog that might love her now. She slid a finger under the flap and pulled out a single page. $500,000, she read, and her voice wobbled in the good way. Restricted grant-making budget, to be deployed this year. Mission, basics, air, food, paper, bus passes, exam fees, legal Saturdays, no cruises, no galas. Committee review as usual. Chair, Kara Pike. She looked up. Her mouth opened and didn't pull a joke out first. $500,000? You wanted half, I said, smiling because the joke was mine this time in kind. This is a better $500,000 to give away. In rooms with no cameras, with Mason and Val and Jonah and Ariana and whomever else you convince. Your name on letters that say yes to beans and condensers and clean paper. She didn't cry then. She reached for Val's number. It's gone. To make me put my phone in the cubby, she said, laughing through her nose. Good. There's a second sheet, I said. Under that, she lifted the page. Underneath, a short letter in my hand. Dear kid, she read. You gave me $2 and a chance to be better. The number we hit isn't the lesson. The lesson is that $2 can buy a joke or a plan. You picked the joke first. I picked the plan next. Let's keep picking the plan. She folded both pages carefully and set them on her plate, like things you don't put away until dessert. I had one envelope too, said Stephen, because that's what Barbara called me when she wanted me to stop thinking like a foreman and start thinking like a man. Inside, the photocopy of that first $2 ticket I'd taken the night we checked the numbers, the corner still wrinkled from my thumb, the 6 numbers that rewired our lives. What? And a $2 bill I'd gotten at the bank from Rita because I'd asked if she had any, and she said always. On the bottom of my own note, 4 words under the boxes I'd written 2 years back. House, money, boundaries, dignity, under that. In my hand, I added a 5th word, small as a prayer, that doesn't want to attract attention : enough. We ate cake. Store-bought. Again, can't buy all the lessons at once. We took no picture. We shook no hands we didn't mean. After everyone left, put the $2 bill and the photocopy in the safe next to the watch, and the letters and the photo of Ms. Delaney and Mr. Ortiz in front of their vents. The house did its noises. Ice machine, a pipe, the porch remembering feet. The 4th stair whispered. I wound the clock and checked the plum the way you check hope. The lemon magnet held a grocery list. Pears, tomatoes, coffee, paper towels. Basics. Dignity. Next Saturday, Kara stood at intake in jeans, phone in the cubby, pen in her hand, and asked the next person their name. When they said it, she spelled it right. She slid a market card across the table. Pears are good this week, she said. And beans. And peaches, if you see them. She smiled without the camera telling her to. That night, after the foundation, board approved 5 bus passes to exam fees. And funding for a notary who liked to stamp more than talk, Kara came by and knocked with her own hand. Dad, she said, thank you for the half. Use it up, I said. On purpose I will, she said. And next year, you're getting a $2 ticket again. Deal, I said. We'll tape it to the fridge with the okayest magnet. We did not tell the internet. We told the pantry. We told Tri-County. We told the clinic. We told Ms. Lynn. We told the house by living right inside it. The $120 million turned into paper and Saturdays and air that works and food that dignifies and a kitchen that can hold envelopes without exploding. The $2 turned into a note in a safe that taught me what for. I slept. Like a person who had stopped teaching with spectacle and started teaching with paper. Like a father whose daughter had learned to give away the best half. The house slept too. That's how you know you did it right.